What's going on, boys? It is day number 21 of reading through the book of Isaiah. I hope that you all have had a great Monday and a great just start to your day overall. We are officially at the 3-week mark of reading through the book of Isaiah, so I hope that you are continuing through this series and you've been sticking around since day one or even from beforehand when we read through previous series. So for today, as you might have guessed it, we are looking at some more prophecies against some major nations at the time. But for today, we're actually looking at 3 prophecies against 3 nations. Now, I'm actually only going to cover 2 of them, as one of them is only like 2 verses long, and it's kind of hard to pull from that, but we'll cover it just a little bit once we get there. So the first nation we're going to look at, and this covers most of the chapter, but this nation is kind of similar to when we talked about Egypt the other day as far as popularity and kind of most well known at the time, and this is the nation of Babylon. Now, Babylon at the time is a pretty popular nation with a strong army, and I'm sure most of us have heard this name somewhere, whether it's in a history class or maybe in a movie or whatever it is. Babylon was a real place at a real time that was a very powerful nation that was very much had their own kind of outlook towards life, and in this case against God, as this prophecy is going to take place. So for this one, it was kind of hard to decide what I was going to pull from in this, but ultimately I came down to verses 2 and 3. I'm going to read them real quick. It says, "A dire vision has been shown to me. The traitor betrays, the looter takes loot, Elam, attack. Media, lay siege. I will bring to an end all the groaning she caused. At this, my body is racked with pain. Pangs seize me like those of a woman in labor. I am staggered by what I hear. I am bewildered by what I see." So these visions are being shown to Isaiah, and Isaiah is proclaiming these visions to the people of Babylon, saying, hey, these things are going to happen because you're not following what God has commanded you to do. These people are going to come in and cause all these terror. People are these looters, which looters are just people that are coming and they just take stuff, almost like thieves, for example, as in like modern day robbers and stuff like that. So these looters are going to come in and they're just going to take stuff. They come in, take what they want, and go. And they're going to come in and take in all this destruction is going to be taken in place. And I love the simile that he makes about this pain that he feels all over his body, and it's like those of a woman in labor. Now, I myself don't know what that feels like to be a woman in labor, but I can only imagine, when you hear about this, maybe you've heard someone talk about, maybe your mom or grandmother or some female has told you about the pain they experienced. And from what I hear, it is a very, very tremendously just beating to the body. And I can just imagine that kind of pain and affliction being thrown onto these people because they're not following. Just imagine that multiplied like 1,000 times. And you get to the point where you become so filled with fear of what is going to happen, because you don't know what you need to do, let alone you don't know what you did to get here. So, the biggest problem that, we see across these nations of these prophecies is that, Isaiah is so well connected with God, and he has these visions that God is willing to put in him. Be like, hey, God, Isaiah's kind of giving these warnings, like saying, hey, this is what's going to happen if you don't, change for the better. If you don't change the way you do things in life. And some people listen, and some people don't. The second nation that the prophecy is going to go against is by a nation of Edom. And there's not much to talk about with Edom. There's only 2 verses actually. That's going on against Edom, so I'll let you take a look at that if you want to look at that. But the last nation I want to look at that I'm sure some of us have heard before is the nation of Arabia. Now, some of us may have heard of the nation, some of us may have heard of maybe the language, Aramaic, whatever that may be. Just kind of wanted to throw that out there. So I want to look at the last 2 verses of this chapter, verses 16 and 17. I think this applies to all of the prophecies against these nations and not just Arabia. But it says, "This is what the Lord says to me," and this is to Isaiah. "Within 1 year, as a servant bound by contract would count it all the splendor of Kedar will come to an end. The survivors are the archers. The warriors of Kedar will be few. The Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken. And I love how he says again, the God of Israel has spoken, and specifically has spoken to Isaiah. So you would think that the people would catch on to that, saying like, okay, well, he's spoken, but like, has he spoken? Like, who's he spoken to? And you would think they would catch on, like, he's spoken to Isaiah the prophet here. Like, we need to change because, he's told us all these visions that he had of our nation crumbling down, and we don't want that. We don't want to have to fall apart. We don't want to have to, be, in shambles almost. And it's just an amazing thing that we see that is said is that, population will shrink, but not extinct. So God will remove these traitors, will remove these people who are causing the terror, the looters, the thieves, the wickeds and stuff like that. But he will save the ones who are loyal and who are dependent on him only. So that is today's word. Pretty short, actually. I was looking at the title here, and it's only 6 minutes in. But that is today's word. I hope that you guys have had a great Monday, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Peace out, boys.